Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Counting gang violence.
Great. Over the last 10 years.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Counting gang violence.
Great.
Well, warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive with me, Meghna Deka. What you just saw was the killing of 31-year-old Charlie Kirk, one of the most high-profile, far-right conservative activists and media personalities of the United States of America. This latest daylight killing, a targeted killing, a sniper bullet to the neck. This has happened in America but has shocked the entire world. We'll tell you why. This is purportedly a political assassination which has sent shivers not just in US but across the globe, because the assassination has happened of a right-wing influencer, Charlie Kirk. This marks a watershed moment in the surge of US political violence that we have seen, one that some experts fear will inflame an already fractured country and inspire more such unrest, more such assassinations. Remember, President Trump himself was the subject of 2 assassination attempts himself just last year. We are going to show you these visuals that you can see clearly. This was the moment Trump managed to dodge that bullet, but Charlie Kirk was not so lucky. As we were just telling you, President Trump too has faced assassination attempts. One of them, the shooter was killed by the authorities second after he fired that shot, but in the other, a man was arrested carrying a rifle and scope near the Palm Beach Golf Club where Trump was playing golf. And now you have Charlie Kirk, the outspoken founder of Turning Point USA and a fierce backer of President Trump. He too had to stare down the barrel of the gun. He was killed during a rally at the Utah Valley University where he was speaking there to many people, having a debate on several issues. Now, while having a debate with the audience there, Kirk, very interestingly, was shot in the neck in the middle of a statement. The visuals of the shooting have since gone viral on social media. Kirk was on this speaking tour. This is his family. No one deserves this. This is what they have lost. This is what has been stolen away from the family. He was part of this tour and he had stopped at the Utah Valley University. It was the first of at least 15 such scheduled events of debates that he wanted to have, conversations that he wanted to have at universities across the country as part of his American Comeback Tour, as he had called it, the American Comeback Tour. Now, before the shooting, he was sitting at his Prove Me Wrong debating table. That's what he called it. He was taking questions from an audience members who were sitting there. Videos show that Kirk was going back and forth with a student about mass shootings, about transgender people who were getting shot. He, remember, was interestingly a proponent of guns. Kirk was then asked how many mass shootings have happened in America over the last 10 years. He replied, counting or not counting gang violence. For many, Kirk's remarks on guns can gain significance in light of this event, his death, killed by a gun. Look at the irony of it all. In fact, watch the 30 seconds right before he was murdered in broad daylight when a sniper bullet went through his neck and there was blood gushing all over. The 30 seconds before Charlie Kirk was killed.
How many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
As I was just telling you, that he had been cornered and he had been attacked over gun violence. In fact, now interestingly, right after he was murdered with a gun, Kirk's 2023 remarks about gun violence have now resurfaced. At that time, he has said that he thought that some gun deaths every year were worth it. Watch this.
That you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen.
Right.
You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home,
Yes.
by having more armed guards in front of schools. We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
Well, with the FBI on the case, the authorities are now racing to find the shooter. In fact, here's the current status of the investigation. Well, the initial post which had come in from Kash Patel, who's the director of FBI, and this is the initial post, and this is very interesting, because initially he said that the accused is now in custody. Later on, he went on to say that the subject in custody has been released after a few hours of investigation. What is the present situation right now? There is no suspect who is currently being investigated. He has not been identified and no one has been apprehended. Well, this is interesting because Kash Patel went first from saying that there is a person in custody right now, but then the FBI director said that the subject in custody has been released. Our investigation continues, he says. At present, where the situation stands is that so far there is no suspect identified, nor is anyone apprehended. So was it a lone wolf attack? Is it possible that there was a sniper bullet without a larger conspiracy? Well, as the news spread, leaders across political spectrum coming out, starting condemning the horrific act. President Donald Trump, who seemed to be visibly shaken, called for swift action against those who perpetrated this and blamed the Democrats for the bloodshed. He's also directed the American national flag to be flown at half-mast in honor of Kirk. Well, in fact, let's tell you what exactly it is that he has said. President Trump has said that the radical left had killed Charlie Kirk, and you can see pictures of him with several of the Republicans. You have his picture with J.D. Vance. There are also pictures of Charlie Kirk with President Trump, whom, remember, he had actively campaigned for. He was also actively looking into the affairs of Donald Trump Jr. as well. Now, President Trump, after his murder, said that the radical left killed Charlie Kirk. It was a political assassination. You also had others like J.D. Vance, who said that you ran a good race, my friend. There are other condolence messages also coming in. Pete Hegseth, for example, the U.S. Defense Secretary, said, "It's taken by an assassin's bullet. It is unfathomable." Well, in fact, despite their frequent disagreements over Kirk's opinions, Democrats themselves came out together and condoled his death. They stood alongside Republicans denouncing the assassination. Well, you have, for example, Barack Obama, the former U.S. president, coming out and saying, "The violence has no place in our democracy." There are others like Joe Biden, the former U.S. president, saying, "We are praying for Charlie's family." Also, Kamala Harris, the former U.S. vice president, said, "I strongly and fully condemn this act." Well, as mentioned, Charlie Kirk frequently clashed with those on so-called liberal side of the politics. Is that why Donald Trump said that he was killed by the radical left? What were some of his very controversial opinions? Why was he in the crosshairs of what many call the radical left? Well, let's get you some of those. He, remember, was pro-gun. Some gun deaths each year are worth it. That is something that he had said, Charlie had said, and we got you that soundbite as well. He had also talked about anti-immigration. He said, "America is full. Put your own people first before you bring in others." Now, Charlie Kirk was also pro-tariff on India. He said that Indian government had paid accounts to peddle trash regarding American tariffs on India. This is the 50% tariff that he had spoken about. Also, he was pro-Israel. He said that Israel is not starving Gaza, very categorically. He was also, interestingly, anti-abortion, pro-life also as it called, and he took a very hard line against abortion. So Charlie Kirk wasn't just a conservative commentator. He was, of course, a powerhouse in the political youth space. You need to understand that. Look at the stats and you'll understand why this man today is so very important, not just in America, in India and across the rest of the world as well, because what next is what everyone's asking. This is his organization. Let's explain to you Turning Point USA and the kind of reach that millions of people they have as followers. They have Instagram, social media like X, presence in schools, colleges, and tens of millions of donations, which are, of course, coming in as well. Let's take a look at Turning Point USA. When it comes to Instagram, it has 8.9 million followers. When it comes to X, it's got 5.9 million followers. At the Turning Point USA, it gets about 3.8 million Turning Point Instagram followers are already there. And then this is merely in schools and colleges as well. Also, when you look at the number of X followers, they have about 900,000 X followers. And this is very interesting. The amount of donations which are also coming in for Turning Point, about $79 million donations came in the 1 year that we have the details of, which is 2022. Also, there are about 4,000 schools and colleges where you have the presence of Turning Point. Goes to show how it's not just a body and organization, it had massive influence as well. Now, although authorities have yet to determine the motive for Charlie Kirk's assassination, various conspiracy theories are already spreading across social media. First conspiracy theory which is coming in, the radical left had killed Kirk, something that President Trump himself has said. Why? Well, very clearly, he's pro-Trump, he's anti-abortion, he's anti-trans, many have said. Conspiracy number 2, that Israel's Mossad has killed Kirk, which is surprising, many have said, because he was a supporter of Israel. But there are many who have cited that in 2024 he had called Harvey Epstein a Mossad agent, something that Mossad apparently took a lot, was very angry about. But this, of course, is just a theory which is doing the round. There's also conspiracy theory number 3, which says that he was betrayed by his own allies, those within the right wing, because of his closeness to Trump, which made people jealous. Well, these, of course, are the conspiracy theories. But let's go across to people who have met him, people who know him very well, and someone who's joining us today who spoke to him right before his death. Pastor Mark Burns, the founder of Now Television Network, is here on our show. There's also Vibhuti Jha, a former Republican candidate for New York, who's joining us here. But first, I'm going to come across to you, Pastor Mark Burns. I believe, Pastor, you had a word with him just the night before he was shot dead. What happened? What did he say? What did you talk about?
Well, you know, Charlie and I go back, obviously, on the conservative movement led by President Donald Trump, and we have interreacted. I've been his guest on his Turning Point events many, many times. We've also spoken at the same events many, many times. There's tons of us. I came on his show not too long ago, you know, to discuss race in America. My conversation with Charlie, communication with Charlie was, you know, just to be, it's very sad, but just to be cognizant of some of the words that could be sounding more divisive, especially dealing with race. Regarding the Ukrainian woman, those of us who know, I'm a staunch supporter of Ukraine. I've been there several times. I received an award from President Zelensky personally. But to consistently talk about white women being killed or white women being brutally murdered, to me, that was more divisive. Yes, we have to deal with the crime, but the consistency of what I would consider dog whistles, whispers, messaging that is speaking to the white supremacists in our country. Charlie, I believe, was not that. But I wanted him as a Christian. He's a believer, to speak more to the sin and talk about the evil that is happening in the world and not so much the color of people's skin. The Ukrainian woman died, obviously, at the hand of an evil individual in North Carolina, and he needs to serve the rest of his life in jail. But we need to talk more about unifying our nation and not dividing. So that was the communication that was with Charlie the day before his assassination.
But Pastor Burns, did he say that, or any time before that, did he mention that he may fear for his life? Because he was very controversial. But he's someone who was open to have a debate, have a conversation. He was out there amongst hundreds of people that we can see having a debate over conversations which are usually very hard to have. But nonetheless, he was sitting there having those conversations. Did he ever fear for his life? Anything that he may have said to you the day before he was killed or any time before?
Well, I can tell you that all of us who are out there in public and all of us who are close to the president and all of us who are fighting a very, conservative battle in America, we're not fearful of our lives. And I know Charlie wasn't fearful of it, but you always are cognizant of the fact that there could be an individual out there that wants to make a point or to silence our voices. And Charlie is clearly one of the leaders, if not the leader of the youth movement in America. They really just made him a martyr. And as many have already stated, this movement, conservative movement, is not dead. Actually, it's just you just awaken a sleeping giant in America. That more young people are going to come to the conservative movement because of the life and sudden death of Charlie Kirk. But Charlie didn't talk about his demise. Charlie was a strong individual. Charlie was extremely genius. Extremely wise. We disagreed on some things, but especially regarding Ukraine. But I can tell you that concerning the conservative movement in America, pro-life, pro-Jesus, pro-faith, pro-gun in America, we all agreed and we fought hand in hand, side beside each other.
But Pastor Burns, many say that it's ironic. He was pro-guns, and look at the end of his life. A very young life at that, killed in the hands of a gun, a sniper bullet that took his life. Pastor Burns?
Right. And absolutely, some could argue that, but also one would also argue that history can repeat itself. Just look back what happened in Nazi Germany when you take away weapons. Look at almost every dictator regime in the world. When you take away their weapons, when you take away individual people's right to bear their arms, then yes, you can create a dictatorship. Japan even said during World War II that they were afraid to invade America because there was a gun behind every building. And that is absolutely right, because American citizens would rise up. So I would agree with Charlie, even though his death came at the hand of a gun, that one death would save millions of potential more deaths at the hands of a gun and an evil person, because you're not going to stop the production of guns in the world, just like you're not going to stop the production of drugs in the world.
So you'd agree with what Charlie said, that it's okay, a few deaths a year, even if one of those deaths is Charlie.
A gun in a good person's hand is good. A gun in a bad person's hand is evil.
Okay.
And so, again, it's an instrument that is being used in the hands. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. And that's what Charlie argued, and I agree with him.
And this is the interesting bit. Vibhuti, I'm sorry I couldn't have come to you earlier, but there is a lot of fear that this could be a breaking point of sorts. We've seen political killings. In fact, President Trump himself has seen 2 assassination bids. The number of political killings has been increasing. Will this lead to another crescendo?
Thank you, Meghna, for having me here. And the point which I want to also touch upon, as Pastor mentioned, that gun in the hands of a police officer is an instrument of law and order. In the hands of a military personnel, it is to protect and defend the country. In the hands of a killer, it's an instrument of murder. So the question is, who is doing all that? And it's a very valid question. Today is also 9/11. And I have a very direct contact with that, but that's not the conversation of today. But we mourn the death of so many people, thousands of people who died because of a deliberate plot and plan to hit America. Important part is 9/11. I remember very well that they came up with a very beautiful statement. When you see something, say something. That's what Charlie represented. I disagreed with him on his certain principles about the way he talked about H-1B visa, but that was part of debate, dialogue, discussion, and disagreements. He was perhaps not educated about this entire agenda of H-1B, and I was willing to have a conversation with him on that you do not know. And to that end, I fault you and I, Megha, because we Indians have never stated or made our narrative to the American people. A lot of American people live under ignorance about the indignity of life. Pastor very proudly said he's a Christian, and I admire him for that. If I say that I'm a Hindu, conservative, and a Republican, people will blame me for being a Hindutva guy. It is important for everybody to come together. Religion, there is nothing wrong with religion the way it is. It's a perfectly fine. You want to pray to something, go ahead and do it, but don't tell me I'm wrong. In that time, remember something. When you see something, you know, that has become a phobic statement now. Barack Obama or Biden or Democratic Party, they have launched a series of attacks on the behind the facade of motive and intent. You will never figure out.
I think it's very well said. It's all about tolerance. If there is a discussion, let's have that discussion. You may agree, you may disagree, but nothing can possibly justify a killing such as this. No matter how much you disagree, we have to show respect to the contrarian view. We may agree with each other, we may not agree with each other, but nothing can end the way that Charlie Kirk was forced to end his life. This
the important part here is, Meghna, is that what
acceptable.
People like Mr. Pastor and myself and others, we have to promote the word acceptance and respect for each other.
Acceptance, respect, and tolerance. For each other. I think that needs to be the cornerstone. Unfortunately, gentlemen, I'm running out of time, but I appreciate it, Pastor Mark Burns, for taking our time to speak to us. Vibhutija, always good to have your perspective on the view. With that, a short break. Don't go anywhere.